Welcome back to my Retrace YouTube channel. In today's class, we'll be learning how to make this beautiful A-line dress with high-low ruffle sleeve. Okay, so the sleeve has like a cascading high-low effect from the bicep area all the way to the hem, and it's really beautiful and very simple to make. If this is something you like to learn, kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so this is an A-line dress. I'm cutting this as an A-line dress, but it can also be made as a circle dress or also a straight dress. So to make this now, I folded my fabric into four. Okay, so in case you're wondering how I folded my fabric, I folded it into two first like this, and then I later folded it into four. Okay, so this is my fold point, which is this part, and this is going to be this side. So because I'm folded into four, it means I folded the front and back together, and you can see that I folded it equally, which means I'm not going to be adding a zipper to this, so I don't need any zipper allowance. So for this now, I'll start to take my measurements. So the measurements that I used in folding this, because it's an A-line dress, I used my hip measurement divided by 4. So the hip I'm working with is 44 inches. 44 inches divided by 4 gave me around 11 inches. So I just added extra 5 to 6 inches to that, depending on how free you want it to be or the amount of fabric you have to work with. So that is the length, that is the width that I have here, and then the length is going to be your full length where you want this dress to be, to reach, minus the ruffles that you are adding to it. My actual full length is 40 inches, and then I'm going to be adding a ruffle of around 5 inches to it. So I deducted that 5 inches from the 40 inches, so I have 35 inches here. Then I added 1 inch seam allowance to it, and that is going to give, that's giving me exactly 36 inches as my length against 11 inches. Remember, I got the 11 inches by dividing my hip, which is 44 by 4. So the 11 inches, I added extra 6 inches to it, and that is giving me 17 inches. So you can see the 17 inches that I have here. So that's how I got the measurement for folding. So this is my starting point. On my starting point, I'm going to take my shoulder measurement. The shoulder I'm working with is 16 inches. 16 divided by 2 is going to be 8 inches. So I have 8 inches there. The neckline is not too wide, so I'm going to be sticking to my 3 by 1 inches for 1 inch for the back and 3 by 3 inches for the front. So I'm just going to mark this now as my neckline. I hope you can see this well. Okay, so that's my neckline. On my shoulder area here, I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and then I'm going to connect that to my neck point. So here I'm going to mark out my armhole. The armhole I'm working with is 8.5 inches. So I have 8.5 inches here, and then I'll make that into a straight line. So it's very simple to make. So on that point, I'm going to mark my bust measurement. The bust I'm working with is 42 inches. 42 inches divided by 4 is going to give me 10.5 inches. So here I'm going to mark 10.5 inches, and then I'm going to add extra 1 inch for ease because I don't want it to be tight. So I'm marking 11.5, and then I'll add 1 inch for my seam allowance. So there I'm going to take my armhole curve and draw out my armhole. So after drawing out my armhole curve, the next thing I'm going to do now is just to connect from my armhole area all the way to the hem in a diagonal form like this. So like I said, if you have more fabric to work with, you can add more, but this is the fabric that I have, so I'm just going to make this in form of this A-line. So now I'm going to cut out what I have here. Okay, I'm going to cut my back neckline first, my shoulder slope, and then I'm going to cut out the armhole. So after cutting this, I'm going to remove the back and then cut out my front neckline. So after cutting this out, this is the shape that I have for my dress. It's not going to be too full, it's just going to be like an hairline dress. So now I'm going to open this up. Because I'm not going to be adding a zipper to this at the center back, I'm just going to slash it open at the back by around 4 inches. You can measure this. Okay, so by slashing it open now, you can see that it's more opened. I can pass my head through this easily, and then I'll remove the back, and then I'll refold this so that I can shape out my 3 by 3 inches front neckline. So I'm going to set this aside now, and then I'll work on the sleeve. Okay, so for the sleeve, is like a cascading high-low sleeve. So I have my basic sleeve pattern here. If you don't know how to draft this, I already have a tutorial on how you can draft your basic sleeve on the channel. So I have 2 of these, one for each side of my sleeve. So now to create that high-low effect, I have the sleeve is like a long sleeve. So the full sleeve length that I'm working with is 23 inches, and then is 22 inches, sorry. Then I'm going to be adding around a ruffles of around 4 inches to it. So now I've deducted that 4 inches ruffle from here. Now that's why I have 18 inches to it. So you should add allowance to yours, but I don't have enough fabric, so I have exactly 18 inches here. So now to create that effect, now I'm going to measure. So as you can see from the sleeve, it runs from high to low here. So now on the fold point, which is this, I'm going to measure how high I want it to be. So you can stop it around your bicep, which is usually around 5 to 6 inches, or if you want it lower, you can also increase it. So I'm just going to I'm going to measure around 6 inches on this point, and then here I'm going to measure out my allowance. That's the 1 inch seam allowance that I left for sewing. Okay, so after measuring that, now I'm going to take my ruler and then connect from this point all the way to the bicep area that I marked earlier. So I'm going to connect these 2 markings together, and then I'll cut this out. So using my scissors now, I'm going to cut this shape out, and once I cut it out, this is what I have. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to add the ruffles like this. So I'm also going to set aside my sleeve and then work on my ruffles. So for the ruffles, I'm going to measure what I have here. Okay, so I'm going to take my tape now and then measure what I have here, and then I'm going to multiply that by 2 or 3 depending on how full you want it to be. So I have around 30.5 inches or 31 inches. So if I'm multiplying this by 2, you just have around 62 inches. So you cut a fabric of 62 inches length, and then of 62 inches width, and then the length is going to be the length of your ruffles. So in this case, my ruffles is 4 inches. So I'm going to cut out 5 inches because I want to add extra allowance to it for sewing. So I've cut this out now, and instead of 5 inches, I cut out 10 inches because I want to put it on fold like this. Okay, so I'm going to put it on fold, and by the time I put on fold, I'll have my 5 inches back, as you can see. And then how long this is the measurement, the 31 inches by 2 that I multiplied. So if you want it to be fuller, you can multiply the 31 inches by 2.5 or even 3 inches. So now I'm going to go ahead and gather this, or you can pleat or gather it, and after gathering it, I'm going to sew it to this line that I have here. Okay, so I'll go ahead to gather this round the open part of the sleeve, as you can see. Then I want to top stitch on it so that I can relax towards the sleeve part. I don't want it flipping out when I wear it, or you can just weave it or just use your lining to cover the same allowance. So I top stitch it with green so that we can see what I'm doing very well. So this is what it looks like. So the next thing now is for you to take the sleeves together. Remember, this is the open part that we opened. Okay, so let me just arrange it well so that we can see it. this is the part that was opened, this is the bicep area that we connected like this, and then we wet tie it together. So on this underarm area, that's the open part. I'm just going to sew it close with the 1 inch allowance that I left. So I'll take it to the sewing machine now and close it up. So I'm gonna head to sew this close now, and this is what it looks like at this point. So now I can flip it to the right side, and then this is what my sleeve looks like. So this is the head of the sleeve, and this is the high-low effect that we have. So you can see that it starts from around the cap area and then just runs all the way to the hem, and then the flange that I have here is going to help me complete the sleeve length that I need. So I cut mine in straight form because it saves more fabric for me, but if you have enough fabric, you can cut it in form of a flounce, a flare, or whatever it is that you want to be there. So now my sleeve is set. The next thing is to work on the main bodies. So for the main bodies, I've gone ahead to sew it on the shoulder. As you can see, I've joined the shoulder together, and then I also sew it on the side. Okay, so for the neck part, remember we slashed open the center back so that the head can pass through it easily. So I've covered that place with the bias. Again, you can see the green thread that I'm using this so that, because the black thread is blending with the main material, so I'm just using the green thread on the lining part, then I use black for the main fabric part so that we can see what I'm doing very well. And then also on the neckline, I've always used my bias to finish up the neckline. So now I'm going to turn this out. By the time I turn it out, this is what it looks like. So the next thing now is to fit the gathers that I intend to fix on the hem. So now to do this again, I'm just going to take my tape measure, and then I'll measure what I have on the hem. So here I have around 31 inches also. I'm going to multiply that by 2. So you can multiply by 2.5 or 3 inches if you want it to be really full also. So multiplying this by 2 is going to give me 62 inches. So just like I did for the sleeve, I'm going to cut a fabric of 62 inches long, and then the width is going to be 10 inches because I want to also double it the way I doubled this for the front. So now I have it 62 inches long, and then I'm going to double it like this so that I can have the 5 inches that I need, and then I'm going to gather it around the hem. So after gathering it around the hem, I'm going to go ahead and fix my sleeves to the armhole area, and then I'll bring it back to show us what it looks like. Okay, so this is sewn now, and this is what it looks like on the mannequin. So this is the neckline. You can see that it is perfectly finished now, and this is the high-low sleeve that we have. So you can see that from the bicep area here, it's high, and then it just goes down to the hem to complete the sleeve length. And this is the ruffles that we have on the hemline of the dress. So this is what the full dress looks like, and you can see it is really beautiful and very simple to make. I hope you enjoyed making this tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.